Welcome to the Village Boy Podcast. This is your host, Trez. I want to use this opportunity, this beautiful Sunday, to wish a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, biological mothers out there, and mothers who adopted children that were not of their own, but played that mother role in the child's life to ensure that a child, man, woman, boy, girl, was able to raise up into a functioning human being. We understand that mothers are critical and essential to a child's life. So we want to use this opportunity on the Village Boy podcast to celebrate all of our moms, all of our stepmoms, all of our grandmoms. Today's your day. Happy Mother's Day. With that said, and before we jump on the topic today, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit the like button. Let's get on this topic today and dissect, shall we? Real ID for all, voter ID for some, unpacking the double standards. Every election year, we hear that voter ID laws that are usually proposed from the right to the left, that every person who's going to vote should have some form of identification that shows in a federal election you are a US citizen and you are allowed to vote. And the Democrats argue these voter ID laws are disparaging to the minority community. Black people don't know how to read. Black people cannot get on a computer. Black people are so clueless, are so helpless. And Democrats are like, we don't need to overburden them with rules and regulations about getting an ID to vote. We just need to let each and everybody vote. However, if you are a felon, if you got some kind of criminal proceedings on you that might prohibit you from voting, Democrats are okay with that. But to go and get you regularized and have an ID, Democrats feel that is just too much on the black family and black people who are or who have already been traumatized from racism. Now we are about to saddle them, put unnecessary pressure like going out to get a voter ID. But the government put out a mandate for May 7th for everybody to get a real ID to be able to fly. And not once did I hear anybody say, oh my God, the real ID stuff, it requires you to have a birth certificate, to have a passport, it requires you to present a voter registrations card, your mortgage bill. It requires you to present all of this documentation. It requires you to go on a computer and make an appointment. It requires you to go stand on the line on Saturdays because it's no appointment requires on Saturdays in some states. So it requires all of this lengthy mental challenges, mental huddles that the vulnerable black communities that are not capable of doing the voter IDs, how are they going to be able to do the real ID? Let's get into it. Let's understand how come real ID is possible. There's no backlash. Nobody's saying black people cannot get the real ID. Everybody's like pushing, go get your real ID if you want to fly. Nobody's questioning if anybody has computers. Nobody's questioning the skills of black folks. Just go get your real ID because you're not going to be able to get into a federal building. You're not going to be able to fly. But when it comes to voting, which is essentially the same documents that you need to present, a birth certificate to show that you were born here, naturalization certificate to know that you are naturalized. The same documentations are the same documents that you need to have a real ID. Democrats are not opposing to this. That is the double standards that we need to unpack. Let's get to it. Let's understand why is there even a conversation of it being disparaging. I decided to go to the AI tool Grok, and I'm gonna share with you what Grok is saying. I ask, are voter ID laws racist? This is what Grok is telling me. Voter ID laws are inherent racist, but their impact depend on context and implementation. The argument for them centers on preventing fraud and ensuring election integrity. Reasonable goals on their face. Fraud is rare. Studies like one from the Brendan Center in 2024 found only 31 credible cases out of 1 billion votes. But supporters argue even a small risk justify IDs. It's not if you want to vote for the president of the United States, you have to be an American citizen and you have to present proof that you are an American citizen. That is simple. Listen, people, if anybody has a problem with meeting this condition, fix the problem. Fix it. Don't say that we cannot fix it, so we should live an open door policy. That is an insult to people's intelligence. Let's keep reading. Critics point out that these laws can disproportionately affect minority groups who are less likely to have IDs due to systemic issues like poverty, lack of access to DMVs, or bureaucratic hurdles. Okay, this is insults that for me, so they've been talking about this since 2014. Let's go with that. 2014 to 2024 is 10 years. If in 10 years you have not been able to regularize your citizens, that is a problem. If having a DMV is an issue, open DMVs in the post office where you do passport, open a small DMV in a Walmart, have one person that can help the people in those communities to get their ID cards. Not doing anything is not an option. Not doing anything is not a solution. And the Democrat have a specialty in not doing anything, in complaining and pointing out all kinds of problems and all kinds of reasons why a law is not going to work, but not practically doing something to make life better. So that person in rural America today, are they gonna get a real ID? Are they gonna want to fly and go to the Johnson and Johnson family reunion? Are they gonna want to be part of the modern world where they can participate in everyday activities? Are they gonna be able to go to the courthouse? Are they just gonna be part of the society? Like, how do you know that they're even American if they don't have this documentation? How do you know? Children that came here when they were 2 years old and have gone through the American educational system speak and sound like every American. They just don't have the documentation to show that they are American. So if somebody stays in America for 70 years, but they were not born here, they speak and sound like your average American. They don't sound like me. I have a heavy accent. So they speak and sound like an American. How are you going to know that they're American and they live in some backwater in, I don't know, South Carolina, someplace, some remote place in South Carolina, and they don't have no identification? They have, I don't know, they're old, they don't have no identification. How do you look at that person and say, okay, they Southern, they got the South Carolina accent? How do you tell this person is an American? So that person that we have no trails of them should just be able to go and vote. Where we at right now? Instead of saying, okay, let's go into this community, send out a group of people to go door to door, house to house, and regularize these people, get these people, look for their paper trail, find out how to get them an ID, help them do an ID on the spot for them. You are talking about it's disparaging. How lazy can the Democrat Party be? How lazy can the Democrat Party be as a party? How much is it going to cost to get older Americans have an ID? Isn't that a right for an American citizen, especially a senior citizen, to make sure they have an ID? We know who they are. They can benefit from Medicare, Medicaid. You can now put them in a system that helps them get the assistance that they need. The Democrat Party doesn't talk about that. Let's finish reading and then we get on some other issues. On the flip side, defenders note that IDs are required for many non voting activities, driving, banking, flying, and offering free ID or alternative verification can mitigate disparities. Countries like Germany, Canada use voter ID without similar controversies, suggesting it is not the concept but the execution that matters. I had not even read this thing, but how can people in America not know that this is not a problem that people need to have congressional hearings about? Once you identify that there's a segment of a population, our older, over 65, 70-year population that don't have the normal ID, the normal thing to do is to regularize these people. Congress needs to s- set up a process where they have mobile DMVs. What kind of country is this that does not think outside the box? What kind of country is this that does not work to help the people of this country? If this was some other country, you would have given them all kinds of assistance, all kinds of aid, all kinds of funding, all kinds of weapons, all kinds of stuff. But to set up a mobile DMV to go to the churches, I was watching an episode of Candace Owens when she was doing the genealogy of Kamala Harris. And this woman was able to dig up information from Jamaica, who Kamala Harris's grandparents were, birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, every kind of thing. She was able to dig it up from Jamaica. And American Democrats are sitting out here and telling me it's disproportionately disparaging and unhelpful and racist to Black people. What have you done to fix the problems? They need to have an ID. Who is going to function without an ID? How can you think that somebody not having an ID is okay? How can you think that somebody should vote without you being able to identify the person? So with the real ID right now, so you're not gonna be able to fly your mom to California to come see the baby. You're gonna put her on Greyhound, fly your grandfather. You're not gonna be able to fly your aging uncle, aunties to the family reunion. The conversation that Black Democrats and white liberals want to insult our collective intelligence. Congress gets the village boys F. Congress, you have failed us on both sides. On both sides. Because even the Republicans that are proposing that everybody have an ID have also not proposed a plan to fix those that don't have IDs. And just singing racism is not a solution for anything. People need to have IDs. It's just what it is. How are you supposed to function in a country without people being able to identify you? If you go out in the frigid cold and something happens to you and you die with something, unfortunately, we come to you, we look at your body. Oh, they have an ID. This is Mr. So they live here. They got a contact we can call. So Black folks are just John Does. Let's go ahead. Let's keep this reading because even AI is confused. AI is seriously confused. Let's go ahead and hear what white liberals think about what white liberals think voter ID laws are. Let's listen a little bit. This is just for fun.
Have an opinion on voter ID laws?
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad.
I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
Would you go as far as say those laws are racist?
Sure.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
Tell us how.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs.
Bro said this type of people. White liberals kill me. I swear to God, I don't know which is worse, the devil or the white liberal. I have no idea which one of these two people are worst. The white liberal thinks of you that you are so dumb. Oh, goodness gracious, this hurts. It hurts to watch this madness. It hurts. How do Black people live with this? How do Black Americans look at this and go, yeah, these are our party members. They get us. How do people insult you? The other day was the governor of New York that said the average black kid in the New York borough had never seen a computer. How how does this not offend Black Americans? How God, I cannot. I'm about to cry. How does this not offend Black Americans? Bro here just said this kind of people.
Or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for Black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder?
So Black people don't have AT&T. They don't have what was it, Comcast back in the day. They don't have T-Mobile. They don't have no internet services. Black people are just out of touch. They're just living in the country. They're just so broke. My question is, that's good and fine. Black people are Stone Age people, the early man is way advanced than the black person. How do you fix it? How do you bring black people into civilization? Should have been the questions that you asked this white liberals. How, not about whether they need the voter ID, but how do we get them out of that primitive state and bring them to civilization like you, to function like you white liberals, to be able to operate like you white liberals? That would be the question, because you need to be able to identify the problem, and then you get the solution. So you look at this evil looking white liberals just talking out of nowhere. What would they offer as solutions to say, yes, let's get them out of there? Let's send Elon Musk to put out his expensive internet so that black people can finally have access to internet, can finally be able to go after 500 years, be able to look at the computer for the first time, touch it, feel it, know the PowerPoint button and turn it on. They need to be able to know what a website is so that they could go to the Secretary of State, DMV, or wherever to be able to get assistance. Since that we're old and redundant and we don't know nothing, we can get assistance. We can go somewhere where somebody can help us triangulate our birth certificates, identify that we were born in such a time, get the birth certificate, use the birth certificate, look for another bill. Maybe we don't have any bills. Maybe we don't have any power, utility, water. We don't use none of these things. But let's see. We have social security numbers. Maybe we don't have social security numbers. What else can we have that has our address, that confirms? Lease agreements, something that has to have our names on there to justify that this person is us. Then, if that's not the case, we have to create one. We have to be able to fingerprint people, go through the database, and find something that says this person is who they say they are. White liberals, why are you not proposing something like this to help the black family? Let's keep watching.
Order for black people to go online.
I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works. A lot of people
They don't have the knowledge of how it works. Can they create a program, a university program for black people, black colleges, historical black colleges? Can you create a program so black people learn what is an ID, what a computer is?
have smartphones, but you might not have data.
Okay, but how do we fix it?
Communities, they don't really know what is out there just because they're not aware or like they're not informed.
Now I'm here in East Harlem to ask black people their thoughts on what you just heard. Do you have ID normally? You carry ID around?
Yes, I have state ID.
Do you carry ID?
Yes, I do.
Do you know any black person who doesn't carry ID?
No. Everyone that I know has an ID. Why would they think we don't have ID?
That's a lie. Why would they say that?
I'm going to pause it here because I don't think that these are the black people that those white liberals we're talking about. I'm thinking rural, very rural America, Alabama, Mississippi, those kind of rural people. I think those are the black people that, and much older folk. But you can never be sure with the white liberal, because the white liberal, the governor of New York just said the average black kid in New York has never seen a computer. So I may be thinking they're not talking about those black folk, but with the white liberal, you never know what they're talking about. Let's listen to a black woman tell us about how racists are.
So it depends. One thing we have to stop doing is treating all voter ID laws as the same.
Okay, so your answer, I want to move quickly, so it depends is your answer?
Yes, that's my answer.
Okay, so what voter ID laws are racist?
Apologies, Mr. Cruz, your state of Texas, perhaps?
Okay, so you think the entire state of Texas is racist. What about requiring an ID to vote is racist?
So I think, sir, that's pretty reductive. I'm not saying the entire state of Texas is racist.
You just said my state of Texas, so you tell me, what about the Texas voter ID laws is racist?
So the fact that the voter ID law was put into place to diminish the political power of Latinos with racist intent and it had been found to have
You're
racist
asserting
intent.
that. What's your evidence for that?
The federal district court that first resolved the constitutionality of Texas's voter ID law.
Okay, so your view is voter ID laws are racist. How about you, Mr. Yang?
I agree with Professor Tulsa. Voter ID laws can be racist.
Okay, that's
other
two.
context.
Mr. Science?
There are some voter ID laws that are racially discriminatory in intent.
Look, again, You cannot put anything past Republicans trying to make sure that a group of people don't vote. You can't put that past Republicans. They have a history of doing some of the craziest things you can ever imagine. So you cannot put this because as much as they are advocating for voter ID, they have not made sure they cover all their bases, ensuring that they mobilize the DMV or the process, the accessibility of getting voter ID is available to everybody. Republicans have not done this. And this is also the Republicans not going out of their way to make life convenient for Americans. There's not a politician in America that ensures that American life is actually convenient and comfortable. So they come with this high end law. We need voter ID. I agree. But what other policies have you put in place to make sure every American has the necessary voter ID, the blacks, the Hispanics, the browns, the yellows, the colored folk? What have you done specifically to make sure every American is found and serviced? Whether you're going to use your voter ID to vote, but you are going to have an ID that ensures that you are known, you can get benefits, you can do all the things that you need to do. What have Republicans specifically done to reach out in those communities? Those folks are the ones having to come look into the DMVs and the CDs and make sure they get these things done. Now, the folks at the DMV sometimes they're very nice people. They're very willing to help. So the folks at the DMV, but the DMVs are concentrated in the city. What Republican policy has gone out to the churches with a mobile DMV, to a black church, to a Hispanic church, to ensure, talk to the pastors, the community leaders, to ensure you tell those people, tell their grandkids, tell their kids to ensure they can bring their birth certificates. The ones who don't have a birth certificate, take them to the council or the registrar to ensure that you can go through the system and find that they have a birth certificate and issue it back to them for free at no cost to them. That is a government working for its people. Why does the American government never work for the American people? Why does the American government never put the interests of the American people as first and most important duty that they have? Ted Cruz is asking what laws are inherent racist. Ted Cruz, if there's a mother in some remote place in Texas that does not have the ability to go to the DMV, does not know that this information is available, and you have not ensured that every door is knocked to ensure that the government is readily available to help, going to the people, not waiting for the people to come to them, then it is easy for people to use that as a racist policy. IDs had always been a predominantly white thing. During Jim Crow, how many black folks were going out to have IDs? What DMVs were inside the black communities? Black people were, what is it, a quarter of a human being? They were not having IDs. So don't just, the Republicans cannot be so quick to brush off the frustrations of people when they have not put in place a mechanism to help everybody affordably, to help people regularize themselves, have IDs that are readily available. Go to the people, set up a workshop in the remote area. Go work with the remote mayors. How can we work with you to ensure that once a month the DMV is going to come to this remote area and ensure that everybody has an identity card? And now nobody's talking about the complexity of getting the real ID. But after this, once everybody would have gotten the real ID, in the next election cycle, Republicans are going in the midterm coming in 26. Republicans are going to say we need everybody to have voter ID because there's a 0.0000001% voter fraud. We need everybody to have a voter ID without putting a mechanism in place to ensure that all Americans are regularized. Democrats who don't want to solve the problem, who love their illegal immigrants, who are probably pushing for illegal immigrants to vote, are going to cry, "Woof, oh my God, those laws are so inherently racist. There are black people in the rural areas that cannot have access to the internet, cannot have access to their birth certificates." But what have you done? You have 2 years. What policies are you passing right now to ensure that there is some kind of mobile DMV, MVA that moves from local region to local region, ensuring all the people that don't have IDs at no cost to them? The state can eat this cost up. The state can spare a year of sending military equipment to allies and all that stuff and make sure American citizens have IDs. Instead of asking people useless questions of what about the voter law is racist. That's a pointless, useless question. It doesn't have to be this conversation. What problem are you guys actually solving going back and forth? The problem is this: you want everybody to have an ID? Good, fine. Put the mechanism in place so that everybody has an ID. And those underprivileged communities, because there are a lot of underserved and underprivileged communities. If Ted Cruz does not know this, then well, of course, he's a Republican. He may not know this, but there are so many underprivileged, underserved communities in America. I'll tell you something before we round up here. During COVID, when states were trying to ensure everybody had the COVID vaccine, what the states and city local councils do, they put an incentive. They'll give you $50, whatever, some kind of incentive to motivate people to come get the vaccine. That did not work. Then the city said, you know what? We are not even going to stop here. We are going to come to you. Just put your application. You don't even need to come to us. Tell us what time you're available, and we're going to send a nurse to come down to you and give you your COVID shot. That was the only time I saw the American government working for the American people. They went into the respective homes, people signed up, got people got incentives to get the COVID shot. Why can they not do the same for the older folks? For anybody who's 65 and above that needs an ID card. Why are they not putting an incentive for those folks to have the need to get in a bus, travel to the city or something and come to them, or you go to them? We want to solve the world's problems, but little things like ensuring that Americans in remote areas have an ID, not a single congressman, not a single senator, not a single Republican, not a single Democrat has been able to think about it, that we can go to these people and help them get themselves regularized. It has taken the village boy to come in and explain this thing to this people that don't value Americans. Like, if you're getting any value out of this content, please subscribe. Let's grow on. So let's keep liking. Let's keep supporting the Village Boy. Let's make it our own and have these conversations. I'll wrap it up for today. I'll give an F to Congress, both sides, the left and the right, for identifying a problem, but not coming up with a solution to fix the problem. Here we go with the real ID. Everybody's rushing to get their ID, and there's no talk about people not being able to have real ID. Let's put it, this is disenfranchising. The real ID is racist. Not once have I read anywhere that real ID is racist. And it's the same documents you would turn in to get a voter ID. Thank you for being loyal to the channel. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for loving the page. Good night.